You can't eat on a dirty plate. And don't expect God will now, because of compassion, be eating on the dirty plate. We got to eat on the dirty plate. If you as a man cannot eat on a dirty plate, if you are a dirty vessel, salvation will be distant from you. God is not the one that tolerates the attitude of sinfulness. That is something you must not forget. What happened now? What was the message that God sent Moses? Go to Pharaoh. Tell Pharaoh, let my people come to worship me. That is to tell you that they were no more worshiping the Godhead, even in the land of Egypt. Even as at the time that Jacob was there, that there was an altar created by Jacob in the land of Egypt. There was no altar where his children could learn how to approach God again. So that was why God requested, tell Pharaoh, the bondage over my children is enough. I want the children to come and worship me. That is the message that Moses carried to Pharaoh. And before Moses went to Pharaoh, he told God, but my people will not believe me. That was why the rod in the hand of Moses became useful for performance of signs and wonders, so that people can believe that he met with God. At last we saw, when they stood by the Red Sea and Pharaoh was after them, the only language that Moses used, he says, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Salvation was mentioned again, because salvation now is already placed upon the hand of Moses to conduct deliverance unto his people. Then we now journey from the time of the Egypt in the wilderness. We go on the journey, and when the people murmur against God and continue in their sinfulness, we will see that God did not allow the salvation to affect certain people that were taken out of Egypt. We knew about the Israelites staying in the wilderness for 40 years, and from the age of 21 upward, they all died. Salvation was taken away. They couldn't go further until God has accomplished the punishment he assigned for them. Moses unto Joshua, we knew what happened. When Joshua passed away, we enter in the days, we saw how the Israelites faltered. We saw salvation was no more with the Israelites, and they went into captivity. That captivity extended from one man to another, which we call the book of Judges today. But the one that must be very glaring to us is the time of Gideon, where God again reached Gideon and handed over salvation to Gideon. When he gave Gideon the salvation, Gideon said, I cannot believe you. He needed to test God to know whether this God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, if it is the true angel of God actually that is talking to him. And when he set this sign, God allowed him to find the kind of result he wanted from the sign, the fleece of wool. He said, let there be dew on it, and let the other part of the ground be dried. It was so. Then he came back again. I cannot believe you, Lord. If truly I am the one to deliver Israel, let the dew surround the fleece of wool, and the wool should be dry. And he saw it. You find that when Gideon was to deliver Israel, he was looking for thousands of army, over 30,000. But at the end of the day, only 300 men God needed to deliver the people. That is salvation. Salvation only allow what make God to come near a man. And when you now want to look at what are those things that make God to come near a man, you should be afraid of what I taught earlier. Blood guiltiness. 2, idolatry is there, which you can also see. That God can avoid you. When I say God avoid you, mean his salvation cannot affect you unto the 3rd to 4th generation. Then blasphemy. The blasphemy that people do not understand in the day of Jesus, when he said, if you blaspheme against the Holy Ghost, it means for a man to have the fear of God, especially in appearance. Especially in appearance, not just in word. When you look at some people today in their indecent dressing, they will tell you that God is in the heart. I don't understand. God in the heart? But you forgot that anything you put on has spoken to you. and continue to talk to you. Pattern of appearance before God. You are a man, you appear as a woman. There is no God in your heart, because your appearance will talk to you every minute, every second. If you are a woman, you make yourself bare. You can't cover yourself, your hair as God have ordained. Obedience has failed. In the day of serious evil, there is no salvation there. That is blasphemy. If you look at the manner you now have danced unto the Lord, and it is like the manner that the pagans dance, and you think you are rejoicing, it is the joy of the Lord, you are only dancing to your folly. Salvation is not there. If salvation avoid you, any harm can come upon you. This salvation avoiding people is spotted when anytime salvation avoided the people of God, they will be in captivity. It happened in the day of Daniel, that in 70 years, when Jeremiah was calling unto the people, avoid sinful ways of life. Even as they planned to remove and destroy Jeremiah, God still preserved Jeremiah. When the enemy came to come and take everyone in the land of the Jews to Babylon, you will recognize that Jeremiah was not touched. Jeremiah was helped by salvation. When they put Jeremiah inside a boiling oil, Jeremiah was helped by salvation. When Daniel went into the den of lion, Daniel was saved by salvation. When the three were thrown into fire, the three were saved by salvation. So salvation is not what your attitude dictates for. Salvation can only come closer to you when you operate under the devotion that God can see you. You can play your life around. The nature of playing your life around is different from the nature of appearance before God. That is what is called blasphemy. Even if it is a pagan who is operating with the power of paganism, there are a way he will appear before the shrine that gave him power. Before the shrine will give himself unto him. God is not wayward, so nobody should follow God with wayward spirit. If you appear inordinate and you enter the place of worship and you are tolerated, and there is a preacher and he's speaking, yes, let them go on to speak, but I can as well tell you that congregation is a club, because appearing before God is the only purity of a man. They that worship God should worship God in what? In truth and in spirit. If you say you dress anyhow you want and you appear before God, especially women, that today we have prophetess that are ministering to people. Even in the social media, you will see them. They are praying for people, their hair uncovered. Is it because you preach the Bible make you to become a servant of God or a prophetess of God? No. You must be a bearer of salvation. If you are not a bearer of salvation, whatever you are doing, whether it's social media or anywhere, you are only gathering people for their own destruction. You are not helping them to see heaven. So every preacher is supposed to be a bearer of salvation. And how do you be a bearer of salvation? Preaching the fear of God in the heart of men. That is what we saw to the time of the Samuel. Samuel was also talking about how men should live in not defaming the altar of salvation. We know what happened to the children of Eli because they defamed the altar of salvation. We know what happened to Saul because he defamed the altar of salvation. How did Saul defame the altar of salvation? When he went to have a war with Amalek, and at the end of the day, he had been won, destroy everything there, and he disobedient, he didn't do so, and he brought out fat animals, and he took it to the altar of God. That was the destruction of Saul. Disobedience.